To the light that's known as a fire, a fire, a fire.
Good evening, brothers.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for showing up for this historical interview. My name is Brother Maurice Hines, Fall 18, Xi Alpha Lambda Initiate. I am the current historian, and today I am very privileged to be in your presence because you are the inaugural line for Xi Alpha Lambda, and it's going into its 41st year. So I'm glad I got you guys together. I'm going to go with some questions. They're sitting in front of you, and at the end, we're going to have some fun and just let you go at it and just say how you feel and anything about Alpha that you would like to say. Okay? So we're going to start with you, Brother Bentley, to my left. Can you state your name and the year of initiation?
Hello, my name is Carl Bentley. I was initiated in 1982, April 21st, to Xi Alpha Lambda.
Sir, what is your current occupation? Are you retired? Or?
I'm retired. Retired from everything. In my spare time, I do rental properties and I flip houses and I restore houses.
Okay.
Just pastime.
Okay, sir, in the middle.
Yes, sir.
Can you state your name and the year of initiation?
Name is Willard Walton Jr., commonly referred to as Will. And the year's initiation is April 21, 1982.
Okay, sir. Your current occupation?
Retired.
I like the way you say that, retired. You're not retired because you're in the House of Alpha, so you're always moving.
All right.
Brother to my right, state your name and year of initiation.
My name is Raymond B. Body, I like that. 1982.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much. And your current occupation?
I'm very retired.
Okay, thank you. I can't wait to get through that day. Gentlemen, so when you came into the House of Alpha, Xi Alpha Lambda, back in 1982, there's a lot of things that, we would like to capture. So I want to stay on script here. So I'm just going to go back and to a couple things earlier that I forgot to ask here. So your current chapter now, sir?
Current chapter is Omicron Alpha Lambda in Fredericksburg.
Okay, sir, because that's where you currently live at now?
That's correct.
Okay, sir, and...
Xi Alpha Lambda.
Okay, sir, and sir?
Xi Alpha Lambda, only one I ever belonged to.
Okay,
Yeah.
so are you, all you gentlemen life members? Life memberships or just general?
Life member.
Life member.
I'm not a life member, but I'm an Alpha for life.
Okay, sir, I like that. Always, always. Sir, can you tell me what college did you attend at?
Okay, I graduated from Hampton and Howard and Virginia Tech, and I attended UVA, James Madison, George Mason, and on and on and on. Yeah, I've taken classes at a lot of schools.
So that...
Christopher Newport, but Hampton, Howard, and Virginia Tech are the main three where I graduated from.
So your undergrad was at
Hampton.
Hampton. Okay, and sir?
I'm a Hampton U graduate.
And sir?
I'm Hampton when I was there, it was Hampton Institute, but it's now Hampton University.
Yeah, there's Hampton Institute when I was there also.
So I'm going to make all the brothers from the other HBCUs. I am sitting with the real HU brothers right here.
That's right.
That's right. That's exactly.
That's unique, all three from Hampton.
Yeah.
So, Kurt, sir, we already talked about your current occupations. When you first came into Alpha, okay, can you tell me what your occupation was, sir?
I was a seminary student and substitute teacher in Prince William County.
Okay, sir. And yours, sir?
When I first came in the Alpha, I was a major in the U.S. Army.
Okay, sir. And sir?
I was also in the U.S. Army at the time.
Okay. Now, I'm going to start with you, sir. Okay. What drew you to Alpha while you were in the Army?
Well, I was drawn to Alpha from actually when I was in college.
Okay.
It's sort of a long story. Want me to tell you the whole thing?
Sir, this is your time.
When I grew up, we didn't have, I wasn't familiar with the fraternities. I had a family that my mother and I were very close to. And the oldest son in that family went to Hampton. And naturally, my sister had gone there, so I went there. Naturally, when I got there, I made contact with him. And he was Alpha. And that was my first contact with the fraternity per se. And then Alpha had the reputation when I was there as being a scholastic organization. And the others had different descriptions. I won't give them here. But they're admissible, but they're not quite the same. So I naturally leaned toward Alpha because I always felt like education was the most important thing at that time. So that's why I was leaning toward pledging to Alpha. But I didn't get into fraternity at that time because of multiple reasons. One financial, one work, and one other issues that kept me from pledging. And so I didn't pledge until I was many years later.
Okay. So who influenced you in your later years? Were you in the Army? You met a group of gentlemen in the Army that were Alphas, or?
I go back, the main guy that got me there was this guy Parker, Raymond Parker, who was from my hometown.
Okay.
He got killed on the job after he graduated. What was I answering?
So once you got into the military, who influenced you
Okay.
into Alpha during the 1981 period when you?
Okay. A lot of the people I worked with in the military were Alpha. And a lot of the people I associated in the neighborhood were Alpha. So I guess it wasn't one specific individual, but all of those were sort of influenced me.
Were they current Alpha Lambda members, or?
Some of them now, yes. As a matter of fact, Chap Johnson was part of the one who brought me over.
Okay.
Horace Jordan, Johnny Lawton, all military people. We were all military at the time.
Okay.
And so they influenced me.
So Brother Walton, I'm going to ask you the same question, sir. Okay.
Well, I was in the Army, once I said, and the Army basically asked me because I had not graduated college when being in the Army, but I had been commissioned through Officer Candidate School, and that the Army decided that they need to send me to graduate to get my undergraduate degree. And I was at the time living in Virginia, in Newport News, and I chose to go to Hampton. So went to Hampton, and then most of the people that's in my neighborhood, like in the charter members, Otto Williams, Randall Palmer, it was all, that was good friends. Otto was not in the military at the time yet, but we met, and we'd go on to night school together some, and you know, he was an Alpha, like I said, one of the charter members, and so several of those people, you know, they talked, you know, and I really liked what they were saying because it was more about the academics than, you know, any other BS. I'll just give the initials.
Right.
So it was something, and then we just kept talking about it and thing, and when I found out that the chapel was organized and that they was going to have a pledge line, so I signed up for that and was there. I guess I was the first president of the first pledge line, so you know, and so we just met these guys here and just like family. So it really, you know, everything that the brothers had been telling me, it just all worked out, you know. And like I said, you know, I got nine of us, and one dropped out, and we've been trying to figure out who that was among us, because I could come up with 8, and I know all 8 of those guys, you know, crossed over the burning sand with us. So, but it's good. But
You didn't have a line name, so I'm just going to create one right now. The Dean intake won't like it, but I'm going to call you the Inaugural 8. What's that? Okay.
Good enough.
That's nice.
Okay.
That's nice.
Okay. So, Brother Bentley.
Okay, what drew me to Alpha?
Right.
My first exposure to Alpha came in 1963. I have a brother who graduated from high school and went to Knoxville College. And when he was at Knoxville, he pledged into the Gamma Omicron chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha. He had a whole lot of videos and a whole lot of movies about the frat activities on the campus at Knoxville College. Well, eventually I graduated from high school and I went to Hampton, but I didn't have the grades or the aptitude. I guess I had the intelligence, but I didn't have the grades to pledge. I was not invited to pledge into Alpha. I pledged into a social club. After my graduation, I began teaching. And after 5 years of teaching, I was called to the ministry. And I left my teaching job at Hampton and I moved to Northern Virginia. I was married. And I was a student at Hampton at Howard in the divinity school. And I took a job as a substitute teacher in Prince William County. And one of the assistant principals in the school where I was substituting, Godwin Middle, his name was Mike Madison. And Mike and I were talking, he's a black man, and in a position of leadership, and you know, we talked. And one day Mike asked me, you know, if you had to pledge into, are you interested, would you consider pledging into a fraternity? And if so, which one would you pledge? And I said, well, if I pledged into a fraternity, it would be Alpha Phi Alpha. And he grew this great big smile on his face. And then he started talking. He said, are you really interested in being an Alpha? I said, yes, I really am, you know. And so he invited me to the Smoker, and the rest was history. And you know, the good thing about it, the redeeming thing, is that even though I probably was not ready to pledge when I was in undergraduate school, by the time I got in grad school, I was ready to be an Alpha. And so it happened, and I'm not sorry it happened.
Circle back to you, Brother Walton. You brought up a key thing. You were the president of your line.
yes.
And you said when all of you got together, you became family. What was it that brought you together? Because you know you have different men from different backgrounds. You know, what brought you together?
Well,
what brought that brotherhood together?
I think the fact that, you know, we've always had something, especially the Army used to say, and we used to say this, you cooperate and graduate.
Gotcha.
Right? And we had the people that was there, and we just had that one mission, and then everybody that was there, we would all coalesce and make sure that everybody got what they need. And you know, we were always lifting somebody up.
Right.
Okay? And so I guess I bet these guys remember the night that we was in the back of the truck and got in the ditch. And we got the brother that was driving the truck. He went into this lady's house to call somebody to come get us out, and she was getting ready to call the cops. She said,
we were blindfolded.
blindfolded, we didn't know what the heck was going on. We was all blindfolded. She wanted to see what was going on out there. Yeah. So they came up there and was saying, I said, man, this lady getting ready to call the cops. Think something bad is going on out here. So you remember that, right?
No.
You remember
I remember that.
We was out there, ran
That
in
was
the
the funniest night.
So 40 years ago,
Yeah.
that's the way things work.
Yeah.
And I know that many of you have been to intake sessions of New Crossing over the years.
Right.
Yes.
In that 40 years, has it been for the betterment of Alpha that things have changed? Or
Well, I often say if I pledged today, I would probably not make it.
okay.
Back in the day, we were online and we were, for example, required to recite Invictus.
Right.
And, I stood on my haunches and I said, I'm not going to say that because God is the captain of my soul.
Right.
I said, and I'm not going to do anything that's going to estrange me from my relationship with the Lord. And, they said, okay, you don't have to say it. Right. That wouldn't happen today.
Right.
They say, well, if you can't incite Invictus, you need to find another fraternity, or join the Boy Scouts. But yeah, there have been a lot of, I've seen Xi Alpha Lambda become stronger. I mean, just really concrete and cemented. And we've had good leadership over the years. It's been an incredible chapter. It's run like a corporation. It's run like the military, and I mean it's tight. I've seen other chapters. They're like oatmeal, but Xi Alpha Lambda is like concrete. Good chapter.
What about you, Brother?
I would agree, and I guess being the people that was there that we all got to know, and most of us was in the military, I think, right?
Good number of us.
Good number of us. I'm trying to think, who was not in the military? Carl?
I was not in the military.
I think might have been.
One other.
Say it again?
Gregory was not in the military.
Yeah.
Greg who?
Lewis.
Lewis was not.
Yeah, that's right. Greg Lewis was not. You're right. You're right there. And
And-
then
Go ahead.
go ahead.
Could I just say that even though I'm talking about Xi Alpha Lambda in such rosy terms, my chapter in Fredericksburg, Omicron Alpha Lambda, is also a very tight knit chapter. It's run by a lot of guys in the military, so it has the same mentality. But Xi Alpha Lambda was my first chapter and the one that made the greatest impression on me.
Yeah.
So,
And what I would say, everything that we're taught in the military and in other places too, but everything that we was taught is that you never leave anyone behind.
Right.
You find a way to push them through the hole, If they say, well, ain't but one person get through that. No. If we got two that we need to get through, you find a way, and somebody's in there will come up with something. Sometimes you think some harebrained idea, but we find a way to push them through. And I'll tell you, I do believe that is why we lost one guy. I think you said, right?
Right. I think so.
and that was early in the game.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That was very early in the game.
So how long was your intake? Not pledge, but intake.
My wife said it was forever.
and I don't even remember.
I don't either.
Because the reason why I ask that question now is because the new alphas that are coming in, per se, like me, I've only been an alpha for 3 years and 5 months.
Right.
Okay.
Um,
Welcome.
Thank you. So what advice would you give to, not me yet, but to a new person that says, hey, I'm thinking about pledging alpha or becoming an alpha? What advice would you give them to get ready? If you were their sponsor or recommender, what advice would you give them to prepare them to be an alpha?
Good question. I'll have to think about that.
Okay.
Because, when I was undergrad, I pledged into a social club, and the pledging started like in January, and we didn't go over until April. It was 4 months long. Right. And I was kind of expecting the same thing. It was shorter than that for Xi Alpha Lambda, and now it's even shorter with the current IMDP.
Right.
But to what I would say to an incoming, I call him a plebe, I'd say, just roll with it. I wouldn't tell them, to expect a terminal date.
Right.
I would just expect that. I would just tell them to roll with it and go with it. And I would say this: it'll be over before you know it. And I wouldn't say more than that.
I think mine would be similar to what Carl is saying, but I would say this: if you're going to do anything in life, there'll be some ups and downs. And it won't be any difference in going through this process. And I think you ought to, there's one thing to remember, that the people that you're dealing with, they're not there to do you physical harm. Now, things can get out of hand sometime, and go, but usually the people there they're mature individuals, and so you just gotta stay the course and remember whatever that the timeline and that process, and keep a positive attitude.
Brother Riley, you have anything to say on that?
No, I just say you have to make your mind up in advance what you really want to do. And once you decide that is what you want to do, you got to realize that there are going to be difficulties all along the way, and you got to be prepared to live with them or work around them. But anyway, you got to know that it's not going to be an easy thing. It's going to be something that's going to take effort and determination, and that's what we want in Alpha anyway. So.
Yeah, and another thing I would add to what Ray just said is that's life.
There you go.
That's the way life is. And if you think life is like this, you're going to be in for a rude awakening. I don't care where you go. And when you get around people that I think understand that life is not an even kill, and they're teaching you something. There's a learning process. And if you're in a learning process, chances are there are going to be ups and downs.
Okay. So, go ahead, brother.
Yeah, to add to what Ray and Will have said, one of the things that I would say to a brother that's coming in, I would emphasize the fact that on the other side of the initiation, when it's all over, there are rewards of being an alpha. And, personally for me, the most important thing that I found is the intellectual stimulation, the cultural fertilization. There are a lot of rewards, not just the prestige of being an alpha, but there's the mental thing. Alpha being a group that was organized as a study club, does have a scholarly foundation, and the exchange of ideas that happens, when men enter and exchange greetings, it really does something to elevate you and makes you a better person.
That was going to be my next question. 40 years.
Okay.
40 years. And I can feel it right here. That light is still burning.
Oh yeah.
What is making that light burn after 40 years? Because as alphas, we have our hands in everything. And you guys, I know Ray, you went to breakfasts on Thanksgiving to leave your family. Will, I've seen you sit inside of South County Middle School with the kids, and I always see you guys out there, What keeps that light burning for 40 years so you can pass that on to us, the younger generation? I'm feeding off of your bright light. Yeah. I'm telling that right now.
I just know, and I've found long ago that one thing, and this came from an old man that I knew, who was the best man I've ever known in all of my life, who's never been inside of a schoolhouse, all right? But his wisdom was great. And the thing that he'd always say to you, you never look down on a man unless you're trying to pick him up. And so, and I didn't know what that meant when he was telling me, because me and my brother was two little boys, you know, and that was my granddaddy. His mother was a slave, okay, and I knew her. And that was his, I mean, that was what he just said. You help anybody up. And to bring just a little story about that, there was an old white woman that lived on the farm that he actually ran. He was a sheriff, but he ran the farm for the guy that owned it. And she had about 3 or 4 kids by herself. And people that looked like us would say to him, Lucius, why in the heck you always helping that woman? And his only comment was, she needed it. Okay? And that's seared in my head. And I was just a little boy. Some of the things I didn't understand at that time, but as it went on, that's what happened. And that's what it is when you meet people that was, as Ray and as Carl has talked about, like these guys. I mean, they're really the salt of the earth. And then it just, as you said, it just excites you, at least exciting. You just keep going, moving on.
What keeps my light burning bright? There are a lot of things I cannot do. There are a lot of things I can do. We had a brother online with us named Kevin Armstrong. Kevin was a pilot, and I never flew a plane before, but I could sit down and talk with Kevin, and he could just talk about his experiences in the cockpit. And when we finished talking, I felt like I had been behind the wheel. I have brothers who have never pastored the church, but my training is in church management and administration and ministry. And, I have brothers to call me and they ask me questions, and, they're searching for answers, and I may have the information that they need in order to make things happen for them, And likewise, you look at all of the professions, like my brother Greg down in North Carolina, at Wake Forest. He's an attorney. In fact, he's in charge of one of the legal schools down at Wake Forest. If I have deep-seated legal questions and problems, if he hasn't written it in a book, I can call Greg and just shoot a question to him, and 9 times out of 10 he's got an answer. If I've got a brother who's a medical doctor, I can ask him medical questions without having to pay a cover charge, And so I am my brother, and my brother is me. What my brothers have, they're willing to share with me. What I've got, I'm willing to share with my brothers. And it's not like, this type of interaction happens with all of the brothers in the entire fraternity. There's some that you are more friendly with than others. Right. There's some that you interact with better than others. Right. But there are enough alphas in the land so that you can find the right combination of intellect to complete yourself and be what you need to be. And so that keeps the light burning. You just go to a convention and see the brothers in action, and you can just be ignited from a distance.
Right. So, Brother Body, what keeps your light burning?
I love people. And anything that I can do to help people is something that I want to do. I guess that's the main thing.
Okay. Sounds good. Okay. Now it's going to be the fun part, so we can let you guys relax here. Is there anything else you would like to share that we have not discussed? And I'd like to hear a couple of little stories. Like I said, the inaugural 8. I'd like to hear a couple good stories that really make the brothers laugh. Want to start?
Well, I I tell you what, the thing that really is, and sometimes these guys can say, I can be a little hot-headed. This guy here, I gotta tell you, these guys, they would just keep me piped down, especially because as we say, we didn't have a line name, but we called Brother Harper Mad Dog Harper. And sometimes I'll tell you, it took everybody there just trying to pull everybody along, and I think we knew they was capable of being there.
Right.
But sometimes Brother Harper could get on your last nerve. I mean, and he just rides you, and so you got to get that there. And I would say then the brotherhood to me, okay, was something. Then there was somebody there that would always have your back, no matter what happened. They call you, and I know, and Brother Bart here would just say, "Well, now just take it easy. It's like we gonna get through this." Yes, sir. And then I can and we get back focused and do whatever our task was to do. It's just the brotherhood, I guess, and that's what draws you closer and closer and closer.
What about my struggles were trying to know the poems? So what did you come up with as a plan to learn all this little bit of information in such a little bit of time? A lot of information in a little bit of time. Like as far as the poems, did you guys have a study session amongst yourselves? Did you,
I think we did. I'm sure we did.
Did you meet during the week?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We also had strong leadership from the fraternity. Horace Jordan, he organized a group that he would give us lessons, and we'd go to his house and he would help us various ways. And
That's right.
Johnny Lawton was part of that,
Yeah.
and Champ Johnson helped as well. But that's one of the things that we learned early, that we have to rely on other people. But in this case, we relied on other people who are our senior brothers, and they were very helpful.
Okay. Great.
Otto Williams was.
Otto, yeah, I was gonna say that Otto was the one that he was always on me, and
I noticed you guys are seeing a lot of the charter members.
Mhm.
oh yeah,
You know.
oh yeah, and that's the other thing, it's just like Ray. I guarantee you that Ray knew these guys. They were friends even before we ever heard, and I won't say I ever heard of Alpha, but I was friends with guys like Brother Palmer, Brother Williams, okay? And we all lived right there in the same neighborhood. And so it was just a close-knit organization. Those 34 charter members that we had there, most of those people, we and I know, Ray, I think you'll agree, we knew most of those people on a real personal level,
Right.
and that just helped bring this whole thing around, I think.
I think so. That was,
So this 40 years, do you think the chapter is going to get stronger?
yes.
The leadership has changed, as you spoke earlier.
Without a doubt.
That's why I had asked the question, what would you say to a younger Alpha coming out of college, coming to alumni chapter, because they're going to be our next leaders in Alpha.
Yeah.
And that's why I was saying, how would you prepare them if you ran across one on now, hey, young man, I've been an Alpha for 40 years.
Yeah, I would tell up and coming alphas to do a study of organizational management and understand organizational behavior, because a fraternity chapter is no different from any other organization. You have a lot of processes that go on. Some are covert, some are overt. There's a lot of stuff that goes on. There are a lot of political things that happen. And, in order to really go with the flow, you got to understand the processes and the group dynamics that are going on within a group. And for a group as large as Alpha Lambda, or as small as, our smallest chapter in Vacapath, pretty much you have the same things going on at some level. So, in order to be successful, I would say study the group. Could I backtrack on something that
Sure,
that Will
please.
was saying?
This is your time.
Okay, well, I appreciate the time. I would like to say that, first of all, John Harper, otherwise known as Mad Dog Harper, John was our DP, Dean of Pledges, and we did go to his house.
Yeah.
And the first night that we went to his house, he told us in a matter-of-fact way, from now on, y'all are not men, you're dogs. And it just sent a chill through my entire circulatory system. But, people like John Harper, even though, they were strict and they had their standards, they had our back. Case in point, Jim McCall, General James T. McCall. His wife was a principal in Fairfax County. And it just so happens that I taught at the school where Jim McCall's wife was principal. And even though in a place as nice as Fairfax County, there's still a lot of subtle racism that goes on. There's a lot of behind the scenes chicanery and trickery. And, I didn't worry a whole lot in my environment, even though the subliminal racism was raging, because Yvonne McCall was there as my principal. Her husband Jim was my brother, and then we had another friend, Herman Howard, who was the area superintendent. And so there were people in certain strata that watched out for those of us who were on the bottom. And so it's important in today's society to have that support system, of people, and you got their back and they got your back, So I thank God for people like Jim McCall and John Harper, because had it not been for those who had gone on before and were in strategic positions that could protect us, I wouldn't have been successful as I was here. So it's important to always honor those who went along before us.
So, Brother Walton, I noticed you have some documents that you would like to share or talk about any of those documents you bought?
Well,
What was your menu item when you crossed? Not just teasing.
say again?
What was the 19 menu items you had when you crossed? Not just teasing.
No, what I wanted to say about the one question, I'd like to just add a couple of things. You got to tell the young people that come in, I think we have to convey to them that you got to get involved. Okay? And I'm telling you, it can be out off the top for somebody. It wasn't quite as tough for me because, like I said, I knew a lot of those guys, one thing, and also what they was trying to tell me and doing to me was things that I'd been through things much worse than that.
Right.
Okay? And I know what it is when somebody's trying to do it, but a lot of these young kids are just out of undergraduate school and coming to a graduate chapter. You should tell, hey, get involved. It's a teaching process, and you got people in there, like Carl said, they're willing to lift you up and push you out front, and so that would be my main thing to say, hey, don't be fearful of this guy here, colonel in the army, and done more things almost than you think than most people. That's good, because he's going to pass it on he'll pass it on. He's not holding on to it.
Right.
Because he knows that. You know why? Because that's what somebody did for him.
Right.
And that's back to what Carl is saying. You know, Mrs. McCall, she was there and she had your back. You know. And so that's what I think a lot of the young kids got to know. And that's the way they learn. And it's an opportunity out here with all of the resources you have within Alpha. And especially, you know, I know more about Xi Alpha Lambda than I know anywhere. It's the only place I've been in terms of you know, the organization. The guys in there has basically done about anything that you want. And anything you want to talk about. If you want to talk about things that a CPA does, you just look right next door there. If you want to talk about something, you know, about religion, we got people all over, and they do it. And they're quality people. And that's what I try to stress. You know? They're quality people and willing to pass it on. So.
Brother Bobby, you have anything before we end our interview?
No, I think one thing we should keep also in mind is that all of the things that we'll emphasize other people do for you, we do for them. We also just to make sure they understand that the responsibility for their development and for their growth is theirs.
Absolutely.
We are supporters,
Right.
but they are responsible for doing it. And when they have a shortcoming, we should help them, and we will. And of course, they will help us too, because you know, even though we have many years' experience, we still have shortcomings, and we need the support of them as well.
Well, gentlemen, I want to thank you for this interview. Before we go and depart as friends, if we can, repeat the Alpha prayer.
Could I tell you one thing though?
Sure.
I was just thinking about once when I was in college, Thurgood Marshall came down to speak to us. And he was telling, he said, they tell you when you finish that the world is waiting for you with open arms. He said, they are, and with a club in each hand.
Yeah.
So what he was letting us know that it's not going to be easy. But you know, you got to get through it.
That's right. You just persevere, you'll get through it to the other side.
Get you guys that link up here. Right? Ready? Grab Bell's hand right there. There you go. There you go. Ready? O Lord, may the true spirit of eternity rule our hearts, guide our thoughts, and control our lives, so that we may become through thee servants of all. Amen.
Amen.
Gentlemen, thank you for this interview.
He would, the house in the cul-de-sac.